want to be their mouthpiece. That one is for sure. You want the other side. I wouldn't even want their own side to be, let them.
And I said earlier too that I was privileged to be one of the legal consultants to Abuja Markets Management Limited. Actually, by an extension, my chambers. And by virtue of our position as legal consultants, we've been exposed to the workings, structure, and the functioning of the Abuja Markets Management Limited for a couple of years now. Now, Abuja Market Management Limited is a registered company under the laws. And the relevant law is the CAMA, Companies and Allied Matters Act, and the operational law now is that of 2020. And as a registered company under CAMA, it's an independent and legal entity that has its own rules of operation as provided by the law. And the law I'm referring to is what I mentioned earlier, which is with this Company and Allied Matters Act. Now, this law actually defines how the operation of the company should be. It defines how a member of the board of directors is appointed, how he can be punished, and how he or she can be removed. And the law actually still goes ahead to stipulate how a managing director of a company such as Abuja Market Management Limited can be appointed and removed as well, besides the members of board of directors. Now, this company has operated in accordance with the law for the couple of years, I think about 10 years now, and till date. However, there has been incursions from different handles into the operations of this company, and particularly about 3 years ago, a major incursion actually occurred, and that was an incident that was orchestrated by the immediate past Honorable Minister of the FCT with a letter of redeployment written to the MD, that's Managing Director of Abuja Market Management Limited, Alhaji Farouk Usman Abubakar, which has a content of moving him from the Abuja Market Management Limited physically to the Human Resources Department of the FCTA. However, despite the fact that he obeyed the instruction, notwithstanding that it is not in accordance with the necessary laws governing AMML. When I say AMML, I mean Abuja Market Management Limited. But in obedience to, as he looked at it at that point, a superior or a man in authority. Yeah, he moved there, he resumed as he was instructed. However, he was never assigned a particular office for the 3 years I just referred to now. And every effort for him to make the authorities see the unlawfulness, the illegality of that deployment actually fell on deaf ears. And subsequently, he was forced to approach the courts. He approached about 3 courts: the Federal High Court, the National Industrial Court, and he still went back to the Federal High Court again. And from these courts, judgments and orders were handed down by these courts of competent jurisdiction, declaring that Alhaji Abubakar Usman Farouk has never ceased to be the MD, Managing Director of Abuja Market Management Limited. And he still, as at when the judgments were delivered, and even as at today, the relevant and lawful occupier of the office of the Managing Director of the Abuja Market Management Limited. Unfortunately, despite these judgments, let me just take my time and just to mention those orders that were actually handed down by the various courts. The Federal High Court on the 10th of July 2023 declared, like I said before, that Alhaji Abubakar Farouk Usman remains and is the substantive and lawful occupier of the office of the Managing Director of Abuja Market Management Limited, and set aside every action that were taken unlawfully by any persons or group of persons who assumed they had the authority to act otherwise and against the law, and upheld him as the substantial and lawful Managing Director of Abuja Market Management Limited. Now, in a suit again before the National Industrial Court, the same court held similarly that he is the relevant, lawful, and substantive MD of AMML, and still went ahead to grant an order restraining any persons, group of persons, or authority, organization from doing anything that is tantamount to obstructing the day-to-day activities, operations, business of AMML. And lastly, another suit filed before the Federal High Court, another order restraining any person and group of persons, organization, governmental bodies from still doing anything, performing any act, taking any steps, which is tantamount to disrupting the activities of AMML. Now, I need to actually refer to some persons, group of persons that have actually been taking steps to disrupt, to obstruct, and to do things that is equal to destroying the AMML, Abuja Market Management Limited. These persons were parties in the series of suits I just referred to. The first I will mention is the Honorable Minister of the FCT, the Group Managing Director of the AICL. AICL is the Abuja Investment Company Limited, as well as the company itself. And lastly, I think that therefore, principally, these are the persons, as well as some dismissed staffs from AMML. Now, these persons have acted as moles who have actually been working negatively against the interest of AMML. And gentlemen, like I mentioned before, that we have several judgments, several orders. 4, I just mentioned, I just itemized them now, that have been handed down by courts of competent jurisdiction in Nigeria today, whose orders, pronouncements ought to be obeyed constitutionally in Nigeria. However, we are seeing a scenario in which these serious orders that have not been set aside by any court of competent jurisdiction. And the law is very clear. When orders, judgments are handed down, they must be complied with. Immediately they are handed down. And it was actually based on this that when the first judgment on Federal High Court was handed down, the MD, Alhaji Abubakar Usman Farouk, resumed it. The court actually heard clearly, and by fact, his office was never occupied by any other person. And he was even acting as the managing director of AMML while he was not occupying his office physically. Documents were brought to him, times in his house, at times where he was posted to and all that, by the company for him to sign, to ensure that the company moves forward. And he dutifully, while acting as the MD of AMML, did everything administratively to ensure that there was no clog in the progress of AMML, despite the fact that he was not physically occupying his office here in these premises. It's a serious sacrifice that he made. He had the option to have said, no, since I'm not occupying my office physically, I wouldn't be working for the company. But he worked for the company for the period of 3 years I just referred to. He never ceased to work, be it day, be it night, that he's approached to work for the company. And the court actually held that he has never ceased to be the MD of the company, and that he should continue to steer the ship of the company. And he stepped into his office and started working as soon as that judgment was handed down. Unfortunately, these forces that I just mentioned rose up again and started doing so many things. First, holding a meeting unlawfully, a board meeting that ought to be held by the board of directors and members, was constituted without a notice to him, or would I say a spurious notice. And at that particular meeting, a supposed termination was arrived at, and it was sent to him by, I think that was by electronically, that his appointment was terminated, which is very laughable. And other series of events have taken place afterwards. Now, besides the attempt to terminate his appointment illegally, there are a series of complications. Gentlemen of the press, I'm sure you must have seen some of them in different news media, both electronic and even print media, even in televisions, alleging so many things against this person and against AMML as an entity, which are very unlawful, which are in contradiction to the judgments and orders that have been made by this competent court of jurisdiction. Now, besides that, the markets that this organization actually manage, so many of them have been forcefully taken over by these so-called authorities without recourse to the rule of law. There are so many of them. There are so many activities that have been done. Now there was a facility management agreement between the AICL representing the FCTA and the Abuja Market Limited, which contains express terms by which that agreement can be brought to an end by either of the parties. Unilaterally, the AICL terminated the facility management agreement without abiding by the expressly stipulated terms that are contained in that agreement. It's very important that all this I'm talking about actually came after the judgments and the orders of the court have been handed down. And it is actually a contempt of those judgments and orders of court. And ordinarily, they cannot stand at law because it's a travesty of justice. And it's a nullity, even before they were actually performed. And at law, they are all null and void. I'm sorry to use that word before gentlemen. So it is very important for us to really appreciate what has happened. They have actually even gone ahead to establish a parallel company to snatch whatever is vested in the Abuja market management. I'm sure your guess is as good as mine that such cannot stand at law. It's a nullity, and it's actually dead on arrival. Now, another angle to it is they are becoming so pedestal, they're becoming so uncivilized, mobilizing mobs in the various markets to cause disruption, to cause mayhem, to cause breaking down of law and order. And personally, I cringe when I actually saw this situation, that men in government, respected individuals of the society, can go to the extent of debasing the values that we hold so much respect, that we hold so much in this nation, in Nigeria. Because it can actually end in so many things that is very, 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 very unsavory. Deaths could have occurred from such situations. People could have been wounded, injuries, and all that. And if we value human life, I'm sure that we will not play with those lives. It's so unfortunate. I've heard this so many times that Nigerians don't value life. But you see, when I see instances like this, I'm forced to actually agree that in Nigeria we don't value life. Because it is so easy for life to be lost in the markets. We all know what marketplace is. It is inhabited by some different kinds of individuals, of elements. It's unfortunate that this is happening in Nigeria, that is actually that has law and that is working in accordance with law. Gentlemen, this is just some of the things that has happened and some of the things that has been in place even before all these unfortunate incidents started to unravel. We are urging the relevant bodies in Nigeria, and I'll start with the National Assembly, that they should quickly, it's very important, they are custodians, they are the makers of our laws. That is very important that their intervention into this, they perform oversight functions, and it's not only on projects that it's supposed to be, but in situations like this, that is bringing to disrepute, that's bringing to break down the facilities of government that's been put in place, that they come quickly to arrest this ugly situation. I'm still appealing to the Inspector General of Police to perform its constitutional duty to make sure that the rule of law is upheld in this situation. And I will still appeal. And these organs, these bodies of government that they direct, the main player in this entire scenario, who is in person of Mr. Sadiq Abubakar Minor, to toe the path of justice, to toe the path of lawfulness and not lawlessness, so that peace can reign, so that what has been put in place by the government is allowed to work for the benefit of the common men. It is common men that are in the market. You see the people there that do little trade in the market. The government does not have the wherewithal to create jobs for all of us. That's the truth. And when we venture with courage to start an enterprise, we shouldn't be part of those persons that will destroy those enterprises. So I appeal that the FCTA should stabilize the situation by calling to order any person that is causing rifts, troubles in this situation. And AICL as an instrument of the FCTA, I'm still appealing to them that they can have a rethink and actually toe the path of justice, the path of reason. I've had the cause to do letters to them, and I appeal to their reasoning. I still want to appeal to them through this medium, that they still allow reason to prevail. Gentlemen, I thank you for this opportunity. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Before we go into
Abuja market, I'll just give you a slight corporate insight about Abuja market management. Well, before the setting up of Abuja Market Management Limited in 2005, in the course of the administration of the former minister, His Excellency Nasiru El-Rufai, the markets were bedeviled with a lot of challenges, notably the proliferation of illegal structures and attachments in common parks, in common parking lots and roadways. Specifically, in Wuse Market then, there were up to 13,000 attachments. There was lack of transparent allocation and sublease and ownership structure, poor documentation processes, poor revenue accountability, lack of effective services such as electricity, water supply in markets, extremely poor sanitary and environmental conditions, occasioned with open defecations, lack of toilets, etc., extremely poor security conditions, poor internal structures and segmentation of markets that obstructs convenient navigation inside markets, poor compliance to statutory regulations, and so on and so forth. In the course of the need for this reform to sanitize markets in the FCT, the then Minister Nasir El-Rufai took an unprecedented and pragmatic step to reform the FCT market systems to be more efficient and more result-oriented. The minister initiated the setting up of the Abuja Market Management Limited as approved by the FCT Executive Council. This action was premised on the fact that AIPDC, that's Abuja Investment Property and Development Company, were handed over all the FCT markets. This establishment shows nexus between the handing over of the markets to AIPDC in 2005 and the establishment of the Abuja Market Management Limited to sanitize and carry out the critical reforms needed in the FCT market system. At establishment, the Abuja Market Management Limited created a virile structure to carry out this assignment of reforms and sanitation of markets. We have, as the internal structure mechanism, the operations department that spearheads the policy execution of facility management operations and service delivery. This department is well endowed with professionals across the building industry, led by estate surveyors and valuers, builders, architects, and so on. We have a structure of our corporate services too that have administrative officers, legal, and accounting services to complement the execution of this laudable initiative. In the course of our service delivery over the years, we have established and achieved laudable landmarks across the FCT markets. Firstly, the government that was hitherto expending money in running and safeguarding markets, due to our operational structure, we're able to create platforms that these services could be executed through our internal operational mechanisms, making government to save large costs in running markets. The issue of attachments and illegal structure was put to a total stop. This freed the common areas and roadways in our markets. AMML over the years was able to establish law and order in the course of our activities. And critically, the lease administration that has been faltered with a lot of illegalities, lack of transparency, AML set up a registry department where reliable database of shop ownership is domiciled. Before the advent of AML, there was no reliable records of these development transactions in our shops. In the course of the issues of the day, AICL served us a notice of non-renewal of our facility management agreement on the 25th of July 2023 to take effect 1st August 2023 with a 2-week window to allow for effective handing over and taking over process where necessary rendition of accounts, reconciliation, and inventory and asset taking we envisage would have taken place. But in defiance of their own rules of engagement set by themselves in the said letter, in the early hours of the morning of 1st August, AICL led a group of people to forcefully break into Wuse Market, our office in Wuse Market, in an unethical, unprofessional, and hostile manner. We have incidented this matter in the Wuse Divisional Police Station, and 3 days after this invasion, they served us with a court order to vacate all their facilities. AML is not averse to handing over these facilities, but we insist that the process of handing over and taking over must be accorded its full majesty, in line with ethical, professional standards and adherence to global best practice. As it stands, this matter is in court as at the instance of AICL, and we will not like to comment on any possible consequences that their actions may bring. However, it is worthy to note that this action has bring to a glorious end to a perfect market administration system and structure initiated by the then Minister of the FCT, His Excellency Nasiru El-Rufai, endorsed by the Federal Executive Council, which was subsequently approved by the President himself. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Felix, my learned friend has spoke so much on the issues at stake. I just want to throw a little light on some key areas as to what is bedeviling Abuja market management as orchestrated by Sadiq Abubakar Mena, the MD of AICL, and some of his cohorts. I would like to state clearly that Abuja Market Management Limited, a registered limited liability company, was actually a product of the FEC, Federal Executive Council. You all know that by our constitution, the president is actually the governor of FCT, but has donated his powers to the minister. So Abuja Market Management was created as a special vehicle for managing markets. And as such, a critical decision that is targeted at altering a fake decision and a ministerial decision of this nature, to which taking markets away from Abuja Market Management cannot be a decision of one man. As we speak, His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. The moment he assumed office, one of the first things he did was to dissolve the board of government agencies and government-owned companies, which Abuja Investment is one. The board of Abuja Investment as at now have been dissolved. There is no board for Abuja Investment. The question is, who is MENA deciding for? The letters we are seeing him and his company secretary signing board resolutions where there is no board of Abuja Investment. We plead that Mr. President intervene in this administrative tyranny and executive recklessness of Mr. MENA before he does more damage to the economy of FCT, to the livelihood of Nigerians. Secondly, we want to let the public know that inciting market association against AMML is not in the interest of the nation. It's not in the interest of business. The more this issue is allowed to fester on, investors begin to lose confidence in Abuja Market Management and even in Abuja Investment because of one man's ego. We also want to let you know, in his further attempt to cripple Abuja Market Management, he has also turned himself into the authority that controls the bank, the various bank accounts of Abuja Market Management by writing to the various banks not to honor instruction of a duly constituted board of Abuja Market Management and her MD CEO. I would also like to leave some caution to the general members of the public that every letter, instructions, directives being given by the MD of Abuja Investment on behalf of our board is a nullity because there is no board currently to give him instructions. And he cannot, by the decision of the court, the Federal High Court, in the judgment of 10th of July, he is not a board member of Abuja Market Management, and he is not the chairman of the board of Abuja Market Management. Also, we want to alert the public that one engineer, Mohammed Abbas Yakubu, has since ceased to be the acting managing director of Abuja Market Management Limited by the same judgment of court on the 10th of July 2023. Also, I want to draw your attention, gentlemen of the press, to a recent court order made just yesterday by another judge of the Federal High Court, directing that Mr. MENA and the other dismissed staff of AMML should restrain themselves, maintain status quo as far as all the records of AMML with CAC is concerned. So they must desist from carrying out any action to alter the records of AMML with CAC. That is the order that was handed down yesterday, and all parties are directed to come before the court on the 16th of August. We hope that they will respect the court enough to restrain themselves from this reckless hostility and present themselves to the treatment of the court. We want to finally use this opportunity to appreciate the president of Ariwa Traders Association, the national president of Ariwa Traders Association, and other stakeholders too numerous to mention that have been in solidarity with Abuja Market Management, in solidarity with the MD, Alhaji Abubakar Farouk, and their confidence and trust in the workings of AMML. We also want to appreciate our partners, InterSwitch and others who believe in the new vision of market and modern market management, which we are up to. And in no time, we have confidence that the leadership of Alhaji Abubakar Farouk will deliver to the public, will deliver to FCT a very viable market that we can all dwell on. And we also want to appreciate you that in all bad things, good things come to bear. In the last 1 week, we have been getting invitation from various states of the Federation to move on into their own markets, to give them what we are giving FCT, and by the grace of God, Abuja Market Management is growing beyond FCT. Thank you.